Good afternoon. My name is Daryl Hondorp. I'm a fishery research biologist with the USGS Great Lakes Science Center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. This afternoon, I'd like to provide an overview of the status of the offshore prey fish community in Lake Huron. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the assistance of the crews of the research vessels Arcticus, Sturgeon, and Spencer Baird, as well as field, laboratory, and database support from the following individuals. The USGS Great Lakes Science Center conducts annual prey fish surveys in all 5 of the Great Lakes. The purpose of these surveys is to provide the data necessary to describe trends in species composition, relative abundance, and the size and age structure of key prey fish species. The prey fish community in Lake Huron is assessed using 2 different surveys, a daytime bottom trawl survey and a nighttime acoustic midwater trawl survey. The bottom trawl survey targets species and life stages that are closely associated with the bottom, whereas the acoustic midwater trawl survey targets species and life stages that are more pelagic or off-bottom in nature. The acoustic survey is a whole lake survey that samples all 3 major basins, but has only been conducted since 2004. Whereas the bottom trawl survey conducts sampling only in the main basin, but has been operating since 1976. Historically, the data collected by these 2 surveys have been considered population indices rather than measures of absolute abundance. Both surveys were completed successfully during the fall of 2021. The acoustics midwater trawl survey conducted sampling in all 3 major lake basins, and the locations of acoustic transects in midwater trawl tows are shown in the map to the left. The acoustic survey conducted sampling over bottom depths ranging from 15 to 175 meters. The 2021 bottom trawl survey conducted sampling only in Michigan waters of the main basin. Sampling in Ontario waters off of Goderich was not conducted in 20 or 21 due to COVID-related travel restrictions. The bottom trawl survey conducted sampling over bottom depths ranging from 9 to 110 meters. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to focus on prey fish dynamics in the main basin where our survey efforts are concentrated. Measures of prey fish community composition shown in subsequent slides are all based or calculated from total species biomass, which includes all ages or size classes combined, whereas trends in the abundance of individual species are based on the biomass of only yearling and older individuals. For certain species, we've developed a simple index of year class strength, which was based on the mean density of young of year individuals sampled in the bottom trawl. We then normalized this series by the maximum observed density in the time series, yielding an index that ranges from 0 to 1, with 1 indicating the year with the greatest or strongest year class. Any reference to age in this fish age in this report is based on ages determined from otoliths. The first point I'd like to make is that the offshore prey fish community in the main basin of Lake Huron has changed dramatically over time, as you can see from the plot to the left. And while there's considerable annual variability in the species composition, you'll note that there appears to be a major regime shift in community dynamics that occurs near or during the year 2004. Henceforth, I'll call the pre-2004 period the historical period, and in the period from 2004 to the present, the contemporary period. The contemporary period is characterized by low prey fish community biomass relative to prey fish community biomass observed during the historical period. In the plot to the left, I've represented the mean prey fish community biomass for each period as a horizontal line. And you'll note that on average, during the contemporary period, community biomass is nearly 75% lower than it was during the historical period. Species diversity of the Lake Huron prey fish community during this contemporary period is also showing a significant declining trend, whereas species diversity historically was either increasing or stable. Decreasing species diversity of the Lake Huron prey fish community is related to the fact that during most years during the contemporary period, community biomass is dominated by one or two species. An extreme example of this comes from data in the Acoustics Midwater Trawl Survey. In 2015, a full 97% of pelagic fish biomass was comprised of a single species, the bloater. However, despite low community biomass and declining species diversity, relative importance of native species in the Lake Huron prey fish community during many years of the contemporary period is higher than at any point observed during the historical period. The shift in the Lake Huron prey fish community that occurred in 2004 was the result of major changes in the relative abundance and population structure of primarily three different prey fish species, the first of which was alewife. Alewife are non-native and were the first or second most abundant species during much of the historical period. They were the dominant planktivore in offshore areas of Lake Huron, but they had negative effects on many native species by outcompeting them or preying on their eggs and larvae. However, they are also the most preferred prey of Pacific salmon, as well as lake trout and other piscivores in the lake. As you'll note from the figure to the left, abundance of yearling and older alewife declined to near zero levels very abruptly during 2003 and 2004. And both surveys suggest that population levels of yearling and older alewife have remained at or near zero through 2021, which is the most recent survey year. Reasons for the rapid decline of yearling and older individuals have been debated, but likely include significant mortality that occurred during the severe winter of 2002-2003, in addition to very high, perhaps unsustainable predation levels on alewife by trout and salmon and other piscivores, as well as changes in offshore productivity driven by declines in nutrient inputs and also changes in food web dynamics brought about by a growing Dreissenid mussel population. Most of the largest alewife year classes occurred during the historical period, and year class strength during the contemporary period has generally been low, although alewife did produce small to medium size year classes in 2013, 2016, and again in 2018. A major factor limiting the recovery potential of alewife in Lake Huron is the fact that since 2003, very few young of year individuals recruit to older life stages. In the figure to the left, I've plotted the length frequencies for several years in the bottom trawl time series, with the colors denoting the probable age distribution within each length bin. If we look at 2003, which would have been typical of most of the years prior to that year, can see that the length frequency distribution is bimodal, with a group of age 0 fish and then a second mode of larger age 1 to 4 individuals. If we fast forward to 2018 through 2020, which are the most recent survey years for which we have alewife age data, you can see that in each case we observe only the mode for the age 0 fish. And despite the fact that 2018 was a relatively strong year class, those fish do not show up as yearlings in 2019, and we do not see any of the 2019 or 2018 year class in the age length distribution for 2020. Aging of alewife sampled during the 2020 survey isn't yet complete, but based on the length frequency distribution for that year, can see that once again, the alewife population likely consists of predominantly age 0 individuals with very little contribution from individuals in previous year classes. During 2021, these young of year alewife were primarily distributed off of Hammond Bay and off of Thunder Bay. And this has been pretty typical of what we've seen for these young alewife, which are primarily distributed near bays and river mouths. The second species contributing to recent changes in the Lake Huron preyfish community is the rainbow smelt. Similar to alewife, it is non-native and was very abundant during the first 15 years of the time series. Likewise, it's an important prey for salmon, trout, and other piscivores. But unlike alewife, recent declines have been more gradual. The major period of decline appears to have occurred between 1990 and 2003. If we zoom in to the last 15 years or so of the time series, you can see that declines in yearling and older rainbow smelt biomass may have actually continued through 2015. But thereafter, both the bottom trawl and acoustic time series suggest that biomass of yearling and older individuals may be slightly trending upwards. Rainbow smelt year class strength has tended to be greater during the second half of the time series than during the first half. Rainbow smelt are known to cannibalize their young, so this recent increase in reproductive success may reflect a relaxation of predation pressure on young of the year fish by a dwindling adult population. However, the series of strong year classes observed during the second half of the time series has so far not led to major increases in yearling and older abundance. During 2021, the rainbow smelt population consisted mainly of individuals that were 40 to 100 millimeters in length, and this mode likely reflects age 0 fish. Larger individuals were a relatively minor portion of the population. As in previous years, the highest concentrations of rainbow smelt occur in the far end of the southern basin, as well as in the North Channel. In the North Channel, rainbow smelt tend to be the most abundant prey fish species. The last major player in recent changes in prey fish dynamics in Lake Huron is the bloater. Bloater is a native species and the last remaining member of the deepwater coragonid complex in Lake Huron. It tends to be a minor component of predator diets, so its population dynamics tend to be driven by factors other than predation. The bottom trawl time series suggests that its abundance in Lake Huron has cycled, with major peaks in abundance occurring from the late 80s to late 1990s, as well as a secondary peak during the 2011 to 2012 timeframe. Whereas the acoustics midwater trawl survey suggests that its abundance has been steadily increasing since 2005. Year class strength of bloater in Lake Huron increased dramatically after the collapse of alewife, which is consistent with the hypothesis that alewife negatively affect bloater populations by preying on their larvae. In recent years, the bloater population in the main basin of Lake Huron consists mainly of individuals 60 to 190 millimeters in total length. Individuals as old as age 13 have been detected in the population, but most of the population consists of individuals with ages 0 to 4. In 2020, which is the most recent year in which our bloater age analyses have been completed, over 60% of the individuals were from the 2018 and 2019 year classes, which were the largest on record. The mode of individuals between 80 and to 110 millimeters in this length frequency histogram for the 2021 suggests that bloater reproduction in 2021 was more successful than in 2020, where very few age 0 individuals were detected. In 2021, bloater were ubiquitously distributed across Lake Huron, but were most abundant along the southeast shore. Their spatial distribution in 2021 is consistent with the results of prior surveys, which suggest that bloater are most abundant along the eastern shore. Before making a few concluding remarks, I'd like to touch on the status of one additional species, the round goby. Round goby is a small, non-native benthic fish that was first sampled in the bottom trawl survey in 1997. It's since become an important food for piscivores in the lake and may now be the preferred prey of piscivores anywhere alewife are not available. Its abundance in 2021, as measured from the bottom trawl survey, was the second highest observed in the past 8 years. However, as you'll note from the plot in the left, its abundance is highly variable and subject to considerable error. This may reflect the fact that the bottom trawl survey does not do a good job of sampling goby in the shallow, nearshore, or rocky habitats preferred by this species. Hence, the Great Lakes Science Center has invested heavily in technology-driven solutions that may improve the accuracy and precision of round goby abundance estimates in Lake Huron. An update on this initiative will be provided in a talk later on in this session. In conclusion, the Lake Huron prey fish community remains entrenched in a regime that's characterized by low biomass and low species diversity relative to the earliest years of the prey fish surveys. Also, results of the 2021 acoustic midwater trawl and bottom trawl surveys are entirely consistent with community and population trends observed in recent decades. It's hypothesized that prey fish biomass in offshore areas of Lake Huron is currently limited by a number of factors. These include predation by a recovering native predator community, invasive species effects on predator-prey interactions and food web dynamics. For example, filtering by Dreissenid mussels has increased water clarity, which is potentially increasing predator-prey encounter rates. Likewise, Dreissenid filtering may be trapping nutrients in nearshore areas that once were exported offshore. Likewise, the lake continues to experience reduced nutrient inputs and overall lower productivity, which may have the greatest impact on larval fish, which upon hatching may not have sufficient food resources to grow or survive, ultimately leading to prey fish recruitment failure. However, native species are more important in the current prey fish community than they were during the historical period, which is consistent with fish community objectives that prioritize a prey fish community primarily composed of indigenous species. Likewise, our observation that bloater reproductive success increased after Alewife collapse suggests that current lake conditions are more conducive to the restoration of native species. This potentially bodes well for current efforts to reintroduce Cisco to Saginaw Bay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present on the status of prey fish in Lake Huron. If there's time remaining, I'd be happy to take any questions.